I felt fury rising in my chest. Of course Damien had gone to the council. He'd tried to kill me, failed, and now he was using politics to come after me. I'll come, I said before Cale could object. I have nothing to hide. Very well, Counselor Vera said. The hearing will be held at the council hall in Silver City. I trust you'll prepare appropriate testimony. She handed me an official summons, then left as quickly as she'd arrived. When she was gone, Cale turned to me with concern. Arya, the Luna Council can be dangerous. They're supposed to be neutral arbiters, but they're often influenced by powerful alphas. Damien will have allies there. Then I'll just have to be convincing, I said with more confidence than I felt. You won't face them alone, Cale said firmly. I'm coming with you. And before we go, there's something important I need to do. Cale's declaration. That evening, Cale took me to the highest peak near the cabin. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Below us, the world stretched out in all directions, forests, mountains, and distant packed territories. Arya, Cale began, and there was something vulnerable in his expression I'd never seen before. I need to tell you something. These past weeks with you have been transformative. When I was chained in that cave, dying slowly from silver poisoning, I'd given up hope. I thought my life would end there, forgotten and alone. But you saved me. And in doing so, you've given me something I thought I'd lost forever, purpose. These weeks training you, watching you grow into your power, seeing your strength and compassion. Arya, I know the mate bond is sacred. I know you've been hurt before. But I have to tell you how I feel. My heart was pounding. Cale. I'm not asking you to be my mate, he said quickly. I know it's too soon, that you need time to heal. But I want you to know that when I look at you, I see someone extraordinary. Before she becomes too powerful. And the man with her, he had a voice I recognized. Alpha Damien Blackwood. Cale and I exchanged looks. Damien's visit suddenly made sense. He hadn't come to apologize or win me back. He'd come to assess how much of a threat I'd become. And when he saw my power, he and Selena had decided to eliminate me before I could grow stronger. They tried to kill you, Cale said, barely controlled rage in his voice. They sent corrupted rogues to murder you. They failed, I said, feeling my own anger rising. For weeks, I'd been trying to convince myself I didn't want revenge. But this was too much. They'd not only rejected and humiliated me, but now they'd tried to have me killed. Cale, I said quietly. I think I'm ready to learn about revenge after all. The Luna Council summons. The next morning, as we were tending to the surviving rogues and trying to contact their families, a messenger arrived. She was a regal-looking woman in her 50s, with gray-streaked hair and the bearing of someone used to authority. Arya Moonstone? She asked formally. Yes? I am Counselor Vera Nightfall, representative of the Luna Council. We've received troubling reports about activities in this region, dark magic, corrupted rogues, and the presence of an unregistered leakin on neutral territory. Her eyes flicked to Cale. You're summoned to appear before the council in 3 days' time to answer questions about these incidents. The council has no authority over lichens, Cale said coldly. No, but they do have authority over werewolf pack lands and neutral territories, Counselor Vera replied smoothly. And Miss Moonstone is still technically a member of the Crescent Moon Pack until she formally severs those ties. The council has received a complaint from Alpha Damien Blackwood claiming you attacked him and are harboring a dangerous creature. We must investigate. I felt fury rising in my chest. Of course Damien had gone to the council. He'd tried. Entire cabin like midday sun. The rogues froze, blinded and confused. Cale looked back at me with shock and something like pride. Arya, what are you doing? Healing isn't just about fixing what's broken, I said, and my voice sounded different, layered with power and authority I'd never possessed before. It's about purifying what's been corrupted. I thrust my hands forward, and pure healing energy exploded outward in a wave. When it hit the corrupted rogues, they screamed, not in pain, but in what sounded like relief. The dark magic that had twisted them began to burn away under the force of my power. One by one, the rogues collapsed. As the corruption left them, some died, too far gone to survive without it. But others began to shift back to human form, gasping and confused, freed from whatever spell had controlled them. When the light finally faded, I swayed on my feet, exhausted but exhilarated. Kale was at my side in an instant, supporting me before I could fall. "That was incredible," he said, wonder in his voice. "Arya, do you understand what you just did? You purified dark magic. That's a legendary ability. Royal healers were said to be able to do it, but I've never seen it with my own eyes." "I just knew I had to help them," I said weakly. "They weren't evil. They were victims." The conspiracy revealed. Among the survivors was a young man, barely out of his teens. He was trembling, naked and confused in his human form. Kale wrapped him in a blanket and gently questioned him. "What's your name?" Kale asked. "Marcus," the young man said, his voice hoarse. "I'm Marcus Greywood. I was traveling to visit family when someone grabbed me. A woman with silver hair and cold eyes. She forced something down my throat, and then I couldn't control myself. All I knew was rage and hunger. My blood ran cold." "Silver hair? Selena?" Marcus nodded weakly. "I heard her talking to someone before the darkness took me. She said something about eliminating the problem." Every expression. Around midnight, I finally gave up and decided to make some tea. I was in the kitchen when I heard it, the sound of paws on the forest floor, many of them, moving with coordinated precision. My healer's instincts kicked in immediately. This wasn't a normal pack patrol. This was a hunting party. "Kale." I called out, but he was already awake and moving. He appeared in the doorway of the bedroom, his eyes glowing amber in the darkness. "Rogues," he said grimly. "At least a dozen of them. They're surrounding the cabin." "Why would rogues attack us?" "They're not random rogues," Kale said, his jaw tight. "I can smell the stench of dark magic on them. Someone sent them." The first window shattered seconds later. A massive gray wolf leaped through, its eyes glowing red with unnatural light. Behind it came more, wolves corrupted by dark magic, their forms twisted and wrong. Kale shifted instantly, his human form rippling into the magnificent midnight black lichen I'd first seen in the cave. He was even more impressive now at full strength, standing nearly 9 feet tall with muscles like corded steel and claws that gleamed like silver blades. He met the first rogue head-on, and the fight was brutal and swift. Kale moved with devastating efficiency, his power so far beyond the corrupted wolves that it was almost unfair. But there were so many of them, and more kept coming. I pressed myself against the wall, trying to stay out of the way. But when I saw Kale take a slash across his shoulder from behind, something inside me snapped. I wasn't helpless. I wasn't weak. I had power, ancient power, and it was time to use it. Arya's power unleashed. I closed my eyes and did what Kale had taught me. Instead of panicking, I breathed. I felt the life force energy all around me, stronger here in the mountains where ancient magic still flowed freely. And I pulled it in, not a trickle this time, but a river. My hands erupted with white light, so bright it illuminated the crescent moon pack. "You can't just run away and hide with," he gestured at Kale with barely concealed fear, "with whatever he is." "I'm not hiding," I said. "I'm training. I'm learning who I really am. And when I'm done, I'm going to make sure everyone who ever looked down on me knows exactly what they missed." Damien opened his mouth to respond, but Kale growled, a deep, primal sound that made even me shiver despite knowing he wouldn't hurt me. Damien's face went pale, and he turned and ran back into the forest. When he was gone, I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. My hands were shaking. "Are you all right?" Kale asked gently, his fierce expression softening as he looked at me. I don't know, I admitted. Part of me feels amazing. I finally told him what I really thought. But another part. I trailed off. Another part still hurts, Kale finished for me. That's normal, Arya. A rejected mate bond leaves scars that don't heal overnight. But you handled that perfectly. You were strong, clear, and you didn't let him manipulate you. He said he made a mistake, I said softly. What if he really means it? Kale took my hands in his, and the warmth of his touch chased away the lingering chill of Damien's visit. Arya, listen to me. A true mate doesn't reject you when times are hard. They don't choose you only when you're useful to them. What Damien did was unforgivable. You deserve someone who sees your worth even when you can't see it yourself. His words wrapped around my heart like a healing balm. I looked up at him, and for a moment, something passed between us, something electric and powerful that made my breath catch. Thank you, I whispered. For believing in me. Always, Kale said, and the intensity in his eyes made me wonder if he felt it too, this connection that was growing between us, different from a mate bond but no less real. The rogue attack. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the confrontation with Damien, analyzing every word. Goddess, you're alive. What are you doing here? I asked coldly, stepping closer to Kale instinctively. Damien's eyes flicked to Kale, and I saw recognition and fear flash across his face. He could sense what Kale was, the power radiating from him was unmistakable. I came to find you, Damien said, focusing back on me. Arya, I made a terrible mistake. The rejection, I was wrong. So wrong. Please, come back. Be my Luna. I stared at him in disbelief. You're mated to Selena now. I never completed the mating bond with her, Damien said desperately. I couldn't. Because every time I tried, all I could think about was you. Arya, you're my true mate. I was an idiot to reject you. Please, give me another chance. For weeks after the rejection, I'd fantasized about this moment. About Damien realizing his mistake, begging for my forgiveness. I'd imagined how sweet it would feel to be wanted by him. But now, standing here with newfound power humming through my veins and Kale's steady presence beside me, all I felt was anger. No, I said firmly. Damien looked stunned. No? Arya, I'm offering you everything. The position of Luna, my love, my pack. Don't you understand what I'm giving you? You're not giving me anything, I said, my voice growing stronger. You're taking. You rejected me when I was weak because you wanted someone stronger. Now you want me back because you can sense I've changed, that I have power. But I'm not the same broken Omega you threw away, Damien. And I will never be yours again. Kale's warning. Kale stepped forward, and the temperature around us seemed to drop. His eyes flashed amber, and his voice carried the weight of absolute authority. She's giving you her answer, he said quietly. Leave. Now. Damien's alpha instinct should have made him want to challenge Kale. But even he wasn't foolish enough to fight a Leaken prince. He took a step back, then another. This isn't over, Arya, he said, trying to maintain some dignity. You belong to the... A subtle hum of energy all around me, like the world was singing a song just below the range of normal hearing. That's it, Kale said softly. You're feeling the life force that connects all living things. This is the source of your healing power. Now, draw a little of it into yourself. Just a trickle. I focused on that humming energy and imagined pulling a thin stream of it into my body. The moment I did, my hands began to glow with soft white light, but brighter than they'd ever glowed before. Excellent, Kale said with pride in his voice. Now you understand the first lesson, you're not generating power from nothing. You're channeling the natural magic that surrounds us all. Once you master this, your healing will be limitless. Discovering hidden strength. Over the next several days, my training intensified. Kale pushed me to explore abilities I never knew I had. He would injure himself deliberately, small cuts, minor burns, and have me heal them using different techniques. Don't just close the wound, he instructed during one session. Understand what caused it. Feel the damage at a cellular level. Then guide the body's natural healing process, accelerated by your power. It was exhausting work. Each night, I collapsed into bed so tired I could barely move. But each morning, I woke up feeling stronger, more confident. The change wasn't just in my abilities, it was in how I carried myself, how I thought about myself. One afternoon, while we were practicing advanced healing techniques, Kale suddenly stopped mid-demonstration. "Someone's coming," he said, his body tensing. I felt it too, a disturbance in the natural energy around us. Moments later, a figure emerged from the forest path. My heart sank when I recognized him. Damien Blackwood. The unwanted return. He looked different than I remembered. Thinner, with dark circles under his eyes and a haunted expression. He stopped when he saw me, his green eyes widening. "Arya," he breathed. "You're alive." Thank the. Oddly comforting. Kale had lived through so much, seen so much. Maybe he really could help me become stronger. "Get some sleep, little healer," Kale said gently. "Tomorrow, your training begins." As I finally drifted off to sleep, I felt something I hadn't felt since before my rejection, excitement for the future. Whatever came next, I wouldn't face it as a weak, broken Omega. I would face it as Arya Moonstone, descendant of royal healers, student of a Leaken prince. And maybe, just maybe, I would become someone even Damien Blackwood would regret rejecting. Part 2, The Awakening, 2000 words. Training in Ancient Magic. The next morning, I woke to find Kale already awake, standing outside the cabin and staring at the sunrise. He looked stronger than he had yesterday, his posture straight and commanding. When he turned to me, his amber eyes glowed with determination. "Today, we begin," he said simply. My training started with meditation. Kale took me to the healing springs, where the steam rose in mystical patterns and the water glowed faintly with natural magic. "Close your eyes," he instructed, sitting cross-legged on a flat rock beside the largest pool. "Feel the energy around you. It's in the earth, the water, the air, the sun. Everything is connected by threads of power." I tried, but at first, I felt nothing. After an hour of sitting still, my legs were cramping and I was starting to feel frustrated. "I can't feel anything," I said, opening my eyes. "Because you're trying too hard," Kale said patiently. "You're used to forcing your healing, pushing your power out. But true power comes from drawing it in first. You have to become a vessel before you can become a channel." He moved behind me, placing his hands on my shoulders. "Try again. But this time, don't reach out. Just breathe and be present." His touch was warm and grounding. I closed my eyes again, and this time, instead of straining to sense something, I simply existed. And slowly, gradually, I began to feel sleeping inside you. And then, Arya Moonstone, you'll show everyone who underestimated you exactly what you're capable of. A new beginning. That night, as I lay in my makeshift bed on the floor, Kale had insisted, I stared at the ceiling and thought about everything that had happened. 2 weeks ago, I'd been a broken, rejected Omega with nothing left to live for. Now I was housing a Leaken prince who claimed I had ancient power in my blood. It seemed impossible. But then again, so did healing someone dying from silver poisoning. "Arya?" Kale's voice came from the darkness. "Are you awake?" "Yes," I said. "Thank you," he said softly. "Not just for saving my life, but for giving me hope. I haven't felt hope in a long time." "What were you doing in this territory?" I asked. "Why were you traveling alone?" There was a long pause. "I was running," Kale admitted. "From responsibilities, from expectations, from a future I wasn't sure I wanted. My father, the Leakin king, wants me to take a chosen mate to strengthen political alliances. But I've been waiting for my true mate, even though everyone tells me it's foolish. It's not foolish, I said quietly. The mate bond is special. It's worth waiting for. Even after what happened to you? Maybe especially after what happened to me, I said. I know now what it feels like when the bond is rejected. I wouldn't wish that pain on anyone. If you have a true mate out there somewhere, they're worth waiting for. You're wise for someone so young, Cale said with warmth in his voice. I'm 20, I protested. That's not that young. He laughed, and the sound filled the cabin with unexpected joy. In Leakin years, I'm over a century old. So yes, to me, you're quite young. A century? I sat up in shock. You're over 100 years old? Lycans age very slowly, Cale explained. We live for many centuries. I won't reach full maturity until I'm around 200. The age difference should have bothered me. Instead, I found it finished. What he did was not just cruel, it was a violation of the oldest laws. In the Leakin Empire, such a rejection would bring severe consequences. Things are different in regular packs, I said quietly. Alphas have the right to choose strong Lunas. I understand why he did it. Do you? Cale challenged. Or have you just been told so many times that you're weak that you started to believe it? His words struck something deep inside me. Maybe he was right. Maybe I had let others define me for so long that I'd forgotten to define myself. I want to show you something, I said suddenly. I went to the small chest where I kept my grandmother's things and pulled out an old leather journal. My grandmother gave me this before she died. It's full of healing spells and remedies, but there are pages in here written in a language I can't read. Cale took the journal carefully and opened it. His eyes widened as he scanned the pages. This is ancient Leakin script, he said with awe. Arya, where did your grandmother get this? I don't know. She never told me about her past. She just said our family had gifts that went back generations. Cale looked at me with new understanding. Your grandmother was a royal healer. They were rare, blessed by the moon goddess herself with the power to heal even fatal wounds. The bloodline was thought to be extinct. What does that mean? It means you're not an Omega, Cale said firmly. You're descended from one of the most powerful healing bloodlines in history. That's why your power is so strong. That's why you could break enchanted chains and draw silver poison from my blood. The revelation left me speechless. All my life, I'd been told I was weak, worthless, at the bottom of the hierarchy. And now this Leakin prince was telling me I came from ancient power? I don't feel powerful, I whispered. That's because no one taught you how to use your gifts, Cale said. But I can. If you let me, I'll help you unlock the power that's. Continue healing me? Of course, I said. But I don't know how much help I can be. My healing works slowly on serious injuries. Your healing is stronger than you realize, Cale said. I felt it when you touched me. There's ancient magic in your touch, the kind that hasn't been seen in generations. He reached out and took my hand, and I felt a spark of energy pass between us. It wasn't a mate bond that had been broken, but it was something. A connection, a recognition. Stay with me while I heal, Cale said. Let me teach you about your power. And when I'm strong enough, I'll help you get revenge on those who wronged you. I don't want revenge, I said automatically. Cale smiled, and it was fierce. Not yet. But you will. The first night. I helped Cale back to my cabin as dawn began to break over the mountains. He was weak but walking, which was remarkable considering the state I'd found him in. Maya's grandmother's cabin suddenly felt very small with a Leakin prince inside it. You should rest, I said, gesturing to my bed. I'll sleep on the floor. Absolutely not, Cale said firmly. I'll take the floor. You're the one who's been using all your energy to heal me. We argued about it for a few minutes before settling on a compromise. He would rest on the bed just for today, and tomorrow we'd figure out better sleeping arrangements. As I prepared a simple breakfast of bread and cheese, I watched him from the corner of my eye. He moved with a predator's grace even in his weakened state, and there was an authority in the way he carried himself that made it impossible to forget what he was. "Tell me about your pack," Cale said, sitting at my small wooden table. "Tell me about the fool who rejected you." So I did. I told him everything, about Damien, about Selena, about the humiliation of the rejection ceremony and the pain of the broken bond. Cale listened without interrupting, but I could see anger building in his eyes. "The mate bond is sacred," he said when regular werewolves. They lived in the far mountains, ruling over territories that most packs feared to approach. And I had just freed their prince. The promise of protection. "Who chained you here?" I asked, helping him sit down. He was still weak from the silver poisoning. "Enemies who wanted to prevent my ascension to the throne," Cale said darkly. "They ambushed me while I was traveling through neutral territory, used magic to bind me here. If you hadn't come..." He trailed off, but I understood. He would have died. "You saved my life, Arya Moonstone," he said, looking at me with an intensity that made my breath catch. "According to Leaken law, I owe you a life debt." "I don't want anything," I said quickly. "I just did what any healer would do." "Any healer would have left a Leaken to die," Cale corrected. "Especially one found in forbidden territory. You risked your own life to save mine." "Why?" I thought about how to explain it. "I was rejected by my mate 3 weeks ago," I said finally. "He said I was too weak, too useless. But healing, that's the one thing I'm good at. The one thing that makes me feel like I matter." I couldn't walk away from someone in pain, no matter who they were. Something shifted in Cale's expression. "He was a fool," he said softly. "I can sense your power, Arya. You're no ordinary Omega. There's something more in your bloodline, something ancient." "What do you mean?" "I don't know yet," he admitted. "But I intend to find out. And in the meantime, I offer you my protection. Anyone who threatens you will answer to me." The decision to trust. I should have been afraid. I should have run back to my cabin and pretended this never happened. But something about Cale made me feel safe in a way I hadn't felt since my rejection. Maybe it was the life debt. Maybe it was the way he looked at me, not with disgust or pity, but with respect. "I need time to recover my full strength," Cale said. "The silver poisoning runs deep. Would you be willing to?" "No one sent me," I said firmly. "And I may be small, but I'm a good healer. Those chains, they're silver. They're poisoning you." I could see now that the silver had burned into his skin, creating festering wounds that oozed black poison. He'd been here for days, maybe weeks. "Why would you help me?" he asked suspiciously. "Don't you know what I am?" "You're someone who needs healing," I said simply. "That's all that matters to me. The healing bond." I approached carefully, setting down my lantern. The chains were secured with a complex lock, but I could see they were old, corroded in places. Using my healing gift, I focused energy into my hands until they glowed with soft white light. I touched the lock, and it crumbled to rust. The Leaken watched me with those intense amber eyes as I removed the chains one by one. Each time I touched his wounds, I channeled healing energy into them, drawing out the silver poison. It was exhausting work, draining my own energy, but I couldn't stop. "You're powerful," he said softly as the last chain fell away. "More powerful than you know." "I'm just an Omega," I said, feeling dizzy from the effort. "No," he said firmly. "You're not." As he spoke, his form began to shimmer and shift. The massive Leaken shrank and reshaped until a man stood before me. He was tall and muscular, with black hair that fell to his shoulders and those same captivating amber eyes. He was also completely naked, which made me blush and look away quickly. He chuckled, a warm sound that surprised me. Forgive me. Shifting destroys clothing. I fumbled in my bag and pulled out the blanket I'd brought. He wrapped it around his waist, and I finally felt safe to look at him again. What's your name, little healer? He asked. Arya Moonstone, I said. And I'm not that little. I'm Kale, he said, then paused. Kale Silverfong. Prince of the Leaken Empire. My heart stopped. The Leaken Empire was legendary, ancient beings who were stronger, faster, and more powerful than the Forbidden Caves. The cabin was small but sturdy, built of ancient stone and dark wood. It sat at the edge of a crystal-clear lake, surrounded by towering mountains that touched the clouds. The healing springs Maya mentioned were nearby, pools of steaming water that smelled of minerals and magic. For 2 weeks, I lived in silence. I gathered herbs from the forest, practiced my healing arts, and tried to piece my broken heart back together. The loneliness was crushing, but it was better than the humiliation of staying in the pack. Then, one night, I heard it, a sound that made my blood run cold. A roar of pain echoed from the mountain caves above the cabin, so powerful it shook the ground beneath my feet. Every instinct told me to stay inside, to bolt the door and hide. But I was a healer. I couldn't ignore someone in pain. I grabbed my healing bag and a lantern, then climbed the steep mountain path toward the caves. The entrance was dark and foreboding, with ancient symbols carved into the stone that I didn't recognize. The roar came again, weaker this time, and I forced myself forward. The Leaken Prince. The cave opened into a vast chamber lit by glowing crystals embedded in the walls. And there, chained to the stone floor with silver chains, was the most magnificent creature I had ever seen. He was in his Leaken form, much larger than a regular wolf, standing nearly 8 feet tall even while restrained. His fur was midnight black with silver markings that seemed to shimmer in the crystal light. But what captured my attention were his eyes, deep amber gold, filled with pain and rage and something that looked like intelligence far beyond any wolf I'd ever known. Who dares enter? His voice was a deep rumble, and I realized with shock that he could speak even in Leaken form. I'm a healer, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I heard you in pain. I want to help. He laughed bitterly. A healer? They've sent a small omega to mock me in my final hours? No one sent. Nightshade is my chosen mate instead. Selena stepped forward from the crowd, a beautiful beta with silver hair and a cruel smile. She had always hated me, always found ways to make my life difficult. Now she was getting everything she wanted. Do you accept the rejection? Damien demanded, his voice harsh. Every fiber of my being screamed to refuse, to fight, to hold on to the bond. But I could see it in his eyes, there was no love there, no recognition of what we could be together. Holding on would only bring more pain. I accept, I whispered, and the bond shattered completely. The pain was unbearable. It felt like my heart was being ripped from my chest, like every bone in my body was breaking at once. I screamed, and the sound echoed through the forest. Some pack members looked away in pity. Others smirked. Selena laughed. The escape to the mountains. I don't remember how I made it back to my small cottage on the edge of pack territory. I only remember the pain, the emptiness, the feeling that a part of my soul had been torn away. For 3 days, I lay in bed, unable to eat, unable to sleep, barely able to breathe. On the 4th day, my best friend Maya came to see me. She was a kind-hearted beta who had never treated me differently because of my rank. Arya, you can't stay here, she said gently, sitting on the edge of my bed. Damien and Selena's mating ceremony is in 2 weeks. You don't want to be here for that. She was right. I couldn't watch him pledge himself to another, couldn't bear to see them together. Where can I go? I asked, my voice hoarse from crying. My grandmother has a cabin in the northern mountains, Maya said. It's on neutral territory, near the old healing springs. No one goes there anymore. You could start over. The northern mountains were forbidden territory, supposedly haunted by ancient spirits and dangerous creatures. But anywhere was better than here. "Help me pack," I said, finally sitting up. "The journey too." The rejection that changed everything. The morning of my 20th birthday started like a dream but ended like a nightmare. My name is Arya Moonstone, and I'm an Omega, or at least, that's what everyone believed. In the Crescent Moon Pack, being an Omega meant you were at the bottom, meant to serve, meant to be invisible. But I had one gift that set me apart: I could heal. Not just bandage wounds or brew simple remedies, but truly heal with a touch of my hands and a whisper of ancient words my grandmother taught me before she died. For 5 years, I waited for this day. The day when I would finally meet my fated mate. The pull had been growing stronger for weeks, leading me to him, Damian Blackwood, the future alpha of our pack. He was everything the stories promised: strong, handsome, powerful. And when our eyes met for the first time at the dawn ceremony, I felt the bond snap into place like a golden thread connecting our souls. "Mate," I whispered, tears of joy streaming down my face. But Damian's expression wasn't joy. It was disgust. The ceremony of shame. The entire pack gathered in the great circle for what should have been a celebration. The morning sun cast long shadows through the ancient pine trees that surrounded our territory. I wore my best dress, a simple blue one I'd saved for months to buy. My long dark hair was braided with wildflowers. I wanted to look worthy of him, worthy of being a future Luna. "Arya Moonstone," Damian's voice rang out across the silent crowd. His jaw was tight, his green eyes cold. "I, Damian Blackwood, future alpha of the Crescent Moon Pack, reject you as my mate." The words hit me like physical blows. The golden thread between us began to burn, searing my chest from the inside. I fell to my knees, gasping for air. "No," I choked out. "Please, Damian, why?" He looked down at me with contempt. "You're weak. You're an Omega. I need a strong Luna by my side, not someone who will make our pack look pathetic. I choose Selena."